Hey, we are the Coalition, loud and proud, civilly disobedient media. We are at 1139 Main Street in Pawtucket at what is now being referred to as the Open Doors Warming slash Shelter Station here in Pawtucket. I'm with old friend Nick Horton. We were talking outside how worlds collide. Folks will remember Nick, who's intimately involved through Open Doors in supporting the efforts to bring to an end the manner in which solitary confinement is practiced here, if you will, in the state of Rhode Island. So we've known each other for a few years. First of all, Nick, Open Doors is actively involved. They're the management agent, if you will, for this facility. As of when, roughly?
We started a week and a half ago.
Week and a half ago. All right, great. I was here the opening day, and the facility has gone through an amazing transformation. The floors have been done. The beds are installed. We're going to get into, first off, some of the operating, if you will, hours and what's available here. But it's really gone through an amazing transformation. Of course, folks remember that this was one of those year and a half, 2 years overnight success stories where because of that crazy weekend, that crazy freeze just a few weeks ago, seems like months ago, but a few weeks ago, a lot of work got accelerated very quickly to get people from Pawtucket and the immediate area off the streets. So first of all, congratulations to Open Door for stepping up, taking this on. It's a considerable responsibility. Let's just lay down what's here for people to help. Give us an idea of hours, services, meals. Paint a picture for us.
Sure. So the building is open 24 hours a day. It has a resource center with a community health worker and case manager who's here to talk one-on-one and provide support services, referrals, access to a variety of the other supports that Open Doors provides. So we have job coaching, we have a driver's license reinstatement program, we have peer recovery coaching, community health work. So this is another entry point into sort of the broader services that we provide at our various locations. Here, during the day, right, people can come in and hang out. There's a 50-person capacity right now, basically not because that we don't want to sort of take on more than we can handle as we're getting started. The building is permitted for much more than that. So we'll see how that goes, but
And you said 50 or 15?
50.
50, okay.
People. And then that's just in the building at one time, clients in the building. And then in the back area, there are cots for sleeping. There are currently 16 cots, and that's what we're limited by the fire marshal to. But we are working to expand that number to 50 as well. But at night, 50 people can be in the building. I know it's a little confusing, and that's because the state and the city are trying to do everything they can to be creative around zoning laws and fire codes to make sure that we can provide the shelter that we need. This building is a great location. It has plenty of room for all the people we want in here. It's, I think, very fire safe. So we feel good about the appropriateness of this space for what we're doing. There are 3 meals a day, and there's access to, as you can see, a number of the donations and the items that the city of Pawtucket has provided. They did a lot to get the place equipped at the beginning.
Part of the complexity of opening up a facility like this is that Rhode Island has some of the strictest, and some would say some of the safest fire regulations in the state. Some of that, quite frankly, came out of a tragedy that we just had a remembrance for a few days ago, the Station nightclub fire. So there's a real difference in terms of permitting and fire safety when it comes to the presence of cots and sleeping, isn't there? That brings you to an entirely different level in terms of the fire department?
Yes, that is true, right? So a building can have a fire capacity of 100 people, but to consider it a residence where people can sleep is another level of code. And so our agency started, we've been doing sort of housing for many, many years, but we started trying to find opportunities to help with the homelessness crisis at the beginning of the pandemic, sort of when we entered trying to do that work. And so we were looking all over Pawtucket and all over Providence for places to put a shelter. And it was very difficult. And there were multiple projects that started and failed. And so I give a lot of credit to the city of Pawtucket, because it was about a year and a half ago when I started talking. They reached out to me about this building, and then they actually made it happen. They purchased it. The Pawtucket Housing Authority owns it. They renovated it, all with their own money. All with money that had come into the city of Pawtucket. A lot of it was federal, but they had to meet all these requirements. And it would have been great for it to, so basically they were able to put it all together. And then when the state came in and decided that once the building was ready, they would provide the funding, that's when we applied.
So, Nick, let's talk about Open Doors for just a second here. In a sense, Open Doors, through its involvement in criminal justice reform, through its involvement in a story that we've covered extensively, innovative driver's license restoration program, in its involvement in recovery, and its involvement in a variety of services to folks who find themselves either unemployed or on the streets. So what you folks have been able to do is craft really a holistic solution to virtually the entire circle of life at this point. You can shelter people, you can help people heal, you can help people re-enter, if you will, some of the societal norms like driving, that you need to be employed. So you've really managed to encapsulate the entire circle at this point, haven't you?
Thanks. We view our primary mission as to invest in people, not prisons. And so that takes all sorts of shapes, from trying to push back against the inhumane treatment inside the prison, which is sort of part and parcel of how it functions, to increase the opportunities for people once they get out, which sort of brings you into the crisis of homelessness. Not all, but many of the people that are living in our shelters, we have a 25-bed shelter somewhere else as well, have criminal records. The agency is doing a lot now to address sort of the larger issues around mass incarceration and poverty from a lot of different angles. And I guess I would just give a lot of the credit to the staff who have figured out how to expand the work, and also have proven to be amazing proof themselves of what is possible, because almost all of our staff are people who themselves have overcome a lot of these barriers of incarceration, barriers of addiction, barriers of homelessness. Yeah.
And if it's often talked about in social justice circles, the notion of a pipeline to prison. Any one of the things that we've just discussed, any one of those aspects that goes wrong, can have calamitous results. Folks who are in recovery, for example, find themselves homeless, and very often, quite frankly, lapsing can be of great physical comfort for the very immediate short term, and then lead to all sorts of other medical issues, which are then exasperated by homelessness in a cold Northeast, which are then make it challenging to find employment. So again, there's this vicious cycle that goes on. I would argue, and I love your reaction to this, I find that Rhode Island to be one of the most expensive states in the country to be poor in. There's just so many, it's whack-a-mole every day, isn't it, for a lot of these people?
Yeah, I guess I don't know enough about your comparison to other states to say whether, how it compares. But I guess in terms of the confluence of all of the different barriers that people face, it's certainly overwhelming, and I don't know how they do it.
Let's look at some of the logistical issues and just go down the line, if you will. Ease of mass transportation. My understanding is there's bus that literally, I think the R line goes right up to the free R line. So folks can find themselves here from virtually anywhere in the area. Is there a Pawtucket residency requirement? It's an open door.
Yeah, it's an open door. I think we really want this place to be a resource for the city of Pawtucket. when we started doing this work at the beginning of the pandemic, we specifically ended up doing, like I said, we were sort of, because of the pandemic, we started focusing more on homelessness. We ended up doing a lot of outreach work at encampment in Pawtucket by the river, and so saw the real need there was in the city for something like this, and there hasn't been any shelter really for years, it's my understanding, in the area, and there's just one encampment after the other. So our hope is that this can be a place that people who are in those difficult situations can come.
Well, and we've found just from our travels at the coalition that, and this is confusing to a lot of people, whether it be Woonsocket or it be Pawtucket or West Warwick, a number of folks who are facing housing instability, outright homelessness, want to stay in their community. They've got immediate family connections, their services, their doctors. It's all within, and so many people say, well, why not just leave and go somewhere else? Well, it's what little some of these folks have is right here, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I guess I want to make sure I give credit to the city of Pawtucket, and I'm not being asked to say this at all. Like, seeing all the things that they did right, and all the things that other places did that they didn't do. So like all the encampments that have been up in Pawtucket, they did not destroy.
Right.
They provided the ability for agencies. They support, like when we were working over by the river, there was a porta potty. The city was doing what they could to actually allow people to keep living there
With some sense of dignity.
Yeah, with some sense
whatever
of
you
dignity.
can muster.
And then just the really commendable efforts to get this place open,
Right.
and to make sure that that they weren't gonna try to push anyone out of an encampment or close anything down, and that they would instead give an opportunity for people to go to. So that has all been really unique, because, like I said, we have tried to do efforts like this in other cities,
Right.
and we never found a partner that was. We never found a city that was as good as a partner.
Excellent. In terms of some of the other logistics, who provides meals here? Are they delivered here? Are they cooked on site?
They're delivered here by the Pawtucket Soup Kitchen.
Excellent. An organization, a partner with long ties to the community, who've been doing this work as well for a number of years.
Yeah.
In terms of security, and that's the initial reaction from folks for whom a direct, if you will, contact with a support facility like this may be their first time. So, the signs are very clear at the door. There's no using here. Do you have a presence here, a security presence that comes through here intermittently? What type of cooperation do you have with the City of Pawtucket Police Department?
The City of Pawtucket provides someone from the fire department here every night on third shift to make sure that everyone is safe, who also has EMT training. There's not currently any police presence. I don't think we need it at the scale that we're at. Like I said, we run a 25-bed shelter in Pawtucket. There's no police presence there. And we have well-trained staff that know how to de-escalate. And we have a series of safety protocols that we have put into place in Providence that have been shown to work. They are not fail-proof.
Right. Life is complicated.
But everyone here, when they come in, is searched. Their belongings are sort of properly secured. So we at least know that there's some level of security on site at all times. So it's a learning experience, and that's one of the reasons why we capped it at 50. Things can quickly get out of control, and we don't want to see that happen.
Yeah, I walk in here, and the first thing I sense is how clean it is.
Yeah.
And just while people are coming and going, there's a feeling of shelter here. There's a feeling of safe shelter here.
Yeah.
And that has been an issue for a number of shelters, well, anywhere around the country. That has typically, alienated is probably a bad word, but there's typically, maybe a combination of alienated and scared off folks who need to seek shelter, particularly this time of year. Have you had difficulty attracting? Are there people out there who don't want to come here yet, or?
Yeah, there definitely are. I mean, I haven't had direct experience with that dynamic here, but from our other shelter, there were people who came into the shelter at the very beginning. It was a new shelter. They've been told about it. They thought they'd give it a try, and they just had too many issues. They just said, and one thing led to the other, and we had to ask them to leave because we need to make sure that it's a safe space for everyone. And so there are a lot of people, I think, who know that they will not be able to function within a space like that. They've tried it before, and it didn't work. They have maybe serious mental health issues, serious lack of ability to control their behavior. And so that, I think, is one can be one reason why people just don't want to give it a try. Like, right. They've seen it not work before for them. And we don't have the ability to create a space that can work for everyone, unfortunately. And then, the other big barrier can be addiction. There are no drugs allowed in the premises to the best that we can keep it from happening. And we don't want people using outside the building. And so there's some people who, if they know that those aren't things that they can live by, then they're not going to want to enter a space like this.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the traditional challenges of shelters everywhere, it's somewhat euphemistically referred to as in by 7, out by 7. Mm-hmm. What are the rules here? I mean, how long can you come and stay? Have you had people stay long term here?
Well, it's only been a week and a half. I haven't been here enough to know if there are people who have just not left, now that it's 24 hours. But the rules are basically that anyone can come in as long as it's 50 people or less, and the beds are first come, first serve. Mm-hmm. So I assume there will be some people who stay here for a long time.
Right. Is there a move? How many? Well, first of all, how many shelters does Open Doors operate? Is it the 2 here?
So in total, we operate 135 beds of housing. So some of that is permanent supportive housing. We operate 3 transitional houses. They're each 14 beds each, and then 2 shelters. This place, and I'm counting as 50 beds because it has capacity of 50, and then our 25 bed shelter. So 2 shelters.
Is there a move to increase that? Is this becoming part of, for lack of a better term, the business plan of Open Doors? I mean, are you taking it sort of a step by step?
I think our mission continues to be really focused around the justice-involved community, focused around the issues of mass incarceration. There's a lot of overlap, but as we develop housing, whether it's shelter, transitional housing, or permanent housing, we want to look for ways that housing can be an alternative to incarceration.
How has a census been done recently in terms of how many folks are homeless in Pawtucket and the immediate area?
It has been. I don't know the numbers. The Coalition to End Homelessness does those censuses, I think, several times a year, and I think they do them geographically. But they make a big effort to try to get accurate counts. Mm-hmm. I think they have some of that data on their website. Sorry, I don't.
No, that's fine. Have you had to turn anyone away?
Not at this place because we're still under capacity.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying 50 people can come. My big fear, or what I anticipate, is that when the Armory gets closed down in April, we'll be overwhelmed.
Right. Yeah. Particularly once word gets out that this is a safe, well-run organization. I'm not taking shots at anyone in the homeless support community. There's a lot of organizations out there across the state, well, across the country, that are doing literally the work of the Lord. The Coalition Radio Network is a big supporter of something called the Milagros Project up in Woonsocket, which provides a lot of weekend-based day facility when they're, a lot of the traditional soup kitchen shelters close down for the weekend. They provide some service in terms of meals, which brings up an important point. Who is this right now being funded by the city of Pawtucket?
No, all the capital investment was the city's investment. So everything that got us to the point, they own the building, it was renovated so we could use it. There's still a lot more to be done actually, because there's a large space downstairs that could do a lot for the community, but it's currently unusable because they don't have the money to renovate it. But all the operations are funded by the state.
By the state, okay.
Yep,
And is this on the list, if you will, of shelter beds? Do you have, or is this considered still a walk-in facility?
It's a walk-in facility, right? That's the distinction that people have been talking about since the Armory. It's not through the coordinated entry system.
Right.
Yep.
How can folks from the immediate area, and I'm talking about community groups, Boy Scouts, people who care, churches, how can they support your efforts here? Is there a component where they can make financial contributions? Are you looking for gently used but clean clothing? All of the usual stuff. How can folks, because the city of Pawtucket is a tribe within a tribe. It's a great community. People are generous here. They really, a lot of folks who are just solidly middle class sometimes give till it hurts. A lot of folks who have even less give even more. So it's a wonderful community. How can they help you out here?
So Dina Bruce is the program director here. She would be doing this interview if she weren't busy program directing.
Right.
So she would be the point person, she and her staff, for accepting any donations. We have a lot of storage space. We also have a lot of stuff right now. So there's not extreme need for donations, as far as I know. But we certainly have room to store all the things like blankets and jackets and hats and things like that people will need eventually. On the Open Doors website, opendoorsri.org, there's a donation link specifically to our necessity fund, which people could donate to. All that money goes directly to people in need through purchasing whatever it is, whether it's a bus pass or help with a for first month's security deposit or something like that, things that we don't have other funds on hand to pay for. And more generally, in terms of the types of support we need, we're looking to partner with all the other agencies in the area more and more. This is our first big project in Pawtucket. We have a transitional house here as well, but so we're working closely with Project Weber Renew that does outreach work here. So outreach work is definitely a thing that we need help with. I'm hoping to partner more with Lifespan and Miriam Hospital, just up the street, and get more services in here through them.
If you're just joining us, we're here with Nick Horton. He is the co-executive director of an organization called Open Doors, which is down on Plainfield Street in La Prave, as we call it. Provides a variety of services, as well as a lot of community engagement and I'll call it directed activism. Not so much political activism, but directed activism at a number of projects which are starting to really bear fruit. While I've got you here for just a minute or two, let's do a status, if you will. How is when we publicized both your announcement and then the first, if you will, traffic tribunal hearing with Judge Caprio, we got an amazing response from people, because the first question is, how come they don't do that in my city? How is that going? How's that program running?
It's going well, but it's a little overwhelming. We have probably over 1,500 applications.
Right.
We've been able to enroll a little over 300 people, and I believe at this point we've reinstated, because it's a close collaboration between us and Amos House. And I know Open Doors has reinstated 41 licenses, and they're definitely higher. They're something like 70 or maybe even more than that. They're doing an amazing job. So yeah, that's sort of where we're at. It's running smoothly, but we wish it was running faster just because there's so much demand.
Right. And I took the opportunity, and I work very carefully not to politicize the work of Open Doors, but I took the opportunity when we were with Judge Caprio to ask him, isn't the problem, you folks are doing incredible work at the symptoms, if you will, of the disease, but ultimately, politically,
yes,
we have to move away from, if you will, I believe personally, the opinion of the station management here, targeting the poor with these fines, which take a difficult financial situation and just turn it into life-damaging results.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you asked that question, because it otherwise it's easy to sort of pretend that's not the root of the problem, and that the same entities that are trying to make this work successful that we're doing are also the ones that control the decisions about how these fines and fees are levied. And I understand it's complicated and it's political because there is income coming into cities, but we've been doing work around fines and fees and inability to pay for years, starting with like court fines and fees and people that were languishing in debtors' prisons and things like that. And there's just plenty of evidence that at a certain point people can't pay. And so you've got to change the underlying root of how the system's operating. And so I know that the Providence City Council is interested in the conversation. I'm hoping that the mayor, who's been very supportive of the work that we're doing, is also interested in the conversation about how we could potentially tinker with, for example, do the fines and fees have to double for everyone? Or can you have a built-in inability to pay formula? So if someone is on food stamps, you automatically see a reduction in fines and fees without having to go through the whole legal bureaucratic process that we are going through now, which adds so much overhead and complexity. And couldn't we all just agree, okay, if you don't have enough money to buy food, then your traffic tickets aren't going to triple. Something like that, which to me would make a lot of sense and would just make the whole system work smoothly instead of backing up like it has now. Right now it's just backed up to the point where even if all the thousands of people that had money to pay their tickets magically, or wanted to try to get their license back, magically had money to pay for them, the system couldn't accommodate all the demand. It just come up the system because there's just so many people that have had their licenses suspended, and the process of getting it back is so complicated. So that's certainly our goal, and we're also working with the Center for Health and Justice Transformation, which is introducing legislation on the state level to try to make it easier, or at least to encourage judges to consider ability to pay.
Right. Yeah. We've just got a couple minutes left. Of course, a project that I personally, the Coalition Radio Network, feels very, very strongly about, of course, is the situation regarding solitary confinement and how it's, we're going to use government speak here, how it's practiced in Rhode Island. I'm the bomb thrower in the room here, so I'm the one who will confront the governor and continue to confront the governor with the fact that we are in violation of a variety of United Nations human rights accords. One can argue that the state of Rhode Island is in fact engaged is a torture state because it continues to practice. You have an event coming up on Thursday night, I believe. If you could just give us a quick snapshot on that before we wrap it up.
Great. Yeah, the legislation to reform solitary confinement is being introduced for the third year. At the State House, we will have a bill launched at 3 o'clock this week, March 9th. You'll hear from people who are survivors of solitary confinement. You'll hear from the bill sponsors, Representative Leonela Felix and Senator Jonathan Acosta.
Great. Well, again, one more time with the website where people can donate.
OpenDoorsRI.org and the /donation or donate, I think. Yep.
Well, congratulations on all your work. Congratulations on this. Again, I walk into a shelter here and it's brightly lit, it's cheery. People who, some with lived experience, are here with a smile and a sense of caring and empathy. And there are real services here to be utilized by folks who, as we've all seen in the last few months here in Rhode Island, are desperately in need. We know all about, or maybe we don't, maybe we need a separate conversation sometime soon about the economics of what's driving this just explosion in housing insecurity. And you've got this right here on Main Street, again, right off the R line, run by, if you will, Open Doors in conjunction with efforts. The building is owned now, permanently owned, permanently disabled. This is not a transitional building. It might be transitional services to some people, but there's a real solution growing up in place all around us right now in Pawtucket to serve the people, the needs of the people in the community. So congratulations on that. And I know you're busy, so thanks for spending some time with us.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Talk to you soon.